Live to Louise Beale at Buckingham Palace. Louise, there are still crowds of people gathered at Buckingham Palace. What sort of reception did King Charles receive?
He received a very warm reception indeed. He and Queen Consort Camilla arrived here at around lunchtime local time, got out of the car and walked in front of the gates of Buckingham Palace, meeting the hundreds and thousands of people that were there who've come and bought flowers, there's now quite a carpet of them in front of the palace and on the gates as well. Many with cards that say how much the Queen meant to people and to thank her for her life of service. So it was very emotional, lots of people singing God Save the King. There was one moment where his security guard told people in the crowd to stop taking photos, and it wasn't for what you might think a security reason. He was just saying savour this moment rather than take photos and talk to your king. And King Charles did spend a lot of time talking to people. People were hugging him and kissing him, which is usually against royal protocol. But as you will hear, people were just really happy to be there.
It's kind of a moment in history, isn't it? It's a very special thing that's happening today with the King coming back to Buckingham Palace.
Yeah. Quite strange. When he first went past, it was silent, and then it was like, no, he's here. And then God Save the King, we started singing the national anthem under God Save the King again. So it was a nice atmosphere, the whole thing.
We saw him sitting in the car, the first car passing by. Really emotional, especially everyone screaming God Save the King, which still is really new to me, but yeah, really impressive and really emotional moment.
My parents have never seen anyone other than this. My grandparents never saw anyone other than, Her Majesty. Just, when you're in London, you've got to be a part of an occasion this big.
And the King has delivered his first address to the United Kingdom.
He has indeed, quite a seminal moment, and it was a very emotional address. You could see that he was fairly emotional throughout, and I think it has been received very well. He talked about his darling Mama, about how she had devoted her life to service, and he then pledged to do the same thing. He also talked about the rest of his family, how William and Catherine will now become the new Prince and Princess of Wales, which is not something that we knew before. And he also talked about his love for Harry and his wife, Meghan. He has completed his first official duty today as well, which was to meet Liz Truss, his Prime Minister, our new Prime Minister. They had a meeting together a little bit earlier, and before that she had been in the House of Commons here in the UK, where all parliamentarians were making speeches about the Queen, their memories and their thoughts and their reflections. She made one, as did Boris Johnson, our previous Prime Minister. He talked about how emotional he had become when he had been interviewed by the BBC to talk about the Queen and his memories of her, and he told some wonderful stories about how she was always very frugal, and when she was in Balmoral, she would only use an electric fire with one bar, and how she used to drive herself around without any security or a driver, often at breakneck speed. We also heard from our other previous Prime Minister, Theresa May, who told another wonderful story about being in Balmoral and unpacking a picnic with the Queen, and how she dropped some cheese on the floor and wasn't sure what to do, but carried on and picked it up, and the Queen saw the whole thing and just smiled. So some really, really lovely stories that were coming out today, and really the whole nation, you can feel, has just been reflecting today and really taking stock of what has actually happened.
Yeah, it was a very human touch. I heard that story from Theresa May, and everyone agreed on the 4-second rule. We'll show you the address of King Charles III shortly. Louise, what happens next?
Well, tomorrow King Charles is officially proclaimed as so. It's a formality. He won't actually be in the event where it happens, but it means that he is now officially king, and all the flags here in the UK are flying at half-mast. They will be raised for just over a day in recognition of that, because it isn't a celebration. And then on Sunday, the Queen's body will be moved to Edinburgh, where she will lie in state for 24 hours before she is then flown down here to London. She will be taken to Westminster Abbey, and she will lie in state there, and that will happen for 4 days before the funeral, and eventually her final resting place will be in Windsor. So plenty more to come for this whole period of mourning here in the UK.
Absolutely. Thank you.